Monday, October 19th, 2020. Oh, 2020. I heard this morning that there's a small asteroid towards Earth. It's 2020. What can I say?
Yes, it's coming November 2nd.
November 2nd. Great. Day before election. Gotta love it. You can't make this stuff up either, can you? All right, so it's Monday, October 19th, 2020. This is our briefing. And then we'll start with Frank. So take our way, Frank.
Thank you, Commissioners. First item on our briefing is in regards to scheduling the 2021 budget hearings for November 24th. Jennifer?
Thank you, Frank. So the first thing that we have is the resolutions for making a declaration of substantial need for purposes of setting the limit factor. And we have the two, one for current expense and one for county road. Since the IPD is under 1%. So I just wanted to.
Jordan, thank you very much for doing an excellent job. And also I want to thank Schmeling, Sticken, and Davis for their sponsorship of this webinar. Longtime supporters of the association.
Kelly, we can hear you.
I want to thank Frank, Rich, and
Kelly?
I got you.
For us, Kelly.
So I wanted to get permission from the commission to place those resolutions on the next board meeting.
I agree.
Great.
Sounds good.
Okay. And the next one that we have is.
Anyway.
Sorry, Frank.
I said you're next anyway.
Oh, then we have the levy, setting the hearing for the levy, and that will be on November 24th. So is the commission good with that one as well?
Yep, that works.
Yes.
Thank you. And the last one to do with the budget is setting the hearing on December 7th for adoption of the budget at 9 a.m.
All good.
My, how time flies when you're having fun.
We're almost done with 2020. And the next thing that we have are the September financials. So starting on page 2, we have the revenue for current expense. And so far through September, we're at 27,566,365, which is 72% of our budget. At this point last year, we were at 26,704,000, and that was at 74% of the budget last year. So, so this year we're a little bit under where we were last year, but we have collected 860,000 more in revenues than we did at this point last year. So any questions on that before we move on?
None from me.
None for me.
So moving on to page 3 and 4, we have the Treasurer Department revenues. So we are in the Treasurer Department, we are at 18,326,202. At this point last year, we were at 18,707,502. We're a little behind on our revenue at this, from where we were at this point last year. We're at 70% of our total budget this year. Last year, we were at 76%. And I believe the major thing, and I didn't go and analyze this too heavily, but I think the major thing was the interest revenue, which is way down. We budgeted 800,000. We're at 387,000. And at this point last year, we had budgeted 600,000 and we're at 662,000. Any questions or comments before we move on to expenditures?
None for me.
So on page 5, we have the current expenditures. We're at 27,258,249, and that is 70% of our budget. At this point last year, we were at 25,323 and $33, and that was at 69% of our total budget. We've expended 1.9 million more than we did at this point last year. Looking through all the departments, most of them are at or below the benchmark of 75%. We do have DEM, but they had a major expenditure early on, so they're at 94% of their budget. I'm going to go through and analyze everybody really heavily this week and next week for any budget amendment needs. And I did send out an email to all the departments on Friday, asking them if they had anything major to report for the last budget amendment of the year. So any questions or comments on the expenditures
Nothing yet.
at this point? Okay. On page 6, we have the 6-year specific revenue streams comparisons, and almost everything is up besides lodging tax, which it was expected, but really it's not down quite as much as I thought it was. We're at 317,000 at this point. Last year we were at 392,000, so not down that badly. The REIT is doing surprisingly well. We're about 215,000 more than we were at this point last year. Sales tax continues to climb. We're at 423,000 more than we were at this point last year. So, so far through September, everything is doing pretty well. Questions or comments on this before moving on?
None for me.
And then on page 7, we have the sales tax detail. And in September, we collected 671,000, which is about 16.5% more than at this point in time last year, or for that month last year. We collected 576,000. So far, we've collected, again, the 4.875 million. And so if we continue on, like if we were to collect what we did last year in October, November, and December, we would collect just under 6.5 million. So it's looking like we are going to collect about 6.5 million. So that's really great news for us. So questions or comments on that?
No, it looks good.
Okay. Then on page 8, we have our financial recap, and we have in the bank as of September 30th, 12.593842 million. And that's an increase over the previous 5 years. Then again, we have our budgeted revenues were at 72% of our total, and our budgeted expenditures were at 70% in current expense. Our special funds, the cash balances on page 9, we are at 30,719,767, which is an increase of about 3.2 million over last year. And the special funds all have continued to grow as well over the past 5 years. So that's great news too. There's just a few that are under where they were last year, but I don't see anything too alarming besides maybe Russellwood, which is, you know, continuously a concern.
Yeah.
So I'll check on that with Victor later on, Victor and Loretta. And on page 10, we have the motor pool, and we are through September. We have spent 263,000 in current expense and health departments. We're at 38% of our budgeted total of 695,000, and that doesn't include any capital. So we will be looking at that, seeing if we need to add anything into our budget for the last budget amendment as well. And then down below on this page 10, we have, what all has been spent within the motor pool of that 263,000, whether it's supplies, fuel, leases, maintenance, repairs, insurance. And then at the very bottom, we have our capital lease portion and then the upfit portion. So, and I know that the commission had asked for this for the 2021 budget, and I do have the rates that we had put together. So I'll share that with you. I'll send it in an email so you can analyze it and look at it.
Thank you.
So any questions or comments on any of this before we?
Jennifer, just on the motor pool side, how does this compare, minus the capital, how does this compare to where we were last year?
Well, we would have been at, I guess, 75% of that 695,000 in theory, if we were paying everything, on a month-by-month basis. That 695,000 is the non-capital portion of the motor pool rates. So does that answer your question?
Yeah, I guess that's fine.
But yeah, that didn't include any type of new vehicles. So yeah.
So it would have been much higher if we'd have purchased the vehicles that we were talking about purchasing.
Yes.
Do you remember right offhand, how many were we talking, Frank? Was it 7? You're muted.
At the minimum 7, more likely 11 was the number that they were looking at. So at 695,000 at 75%, would be close to 600,000, between 500 and 600,000 we would have already spent so far this year, plus whatever the purchase of the vehicles were.
And we were talking about breaking those down over 3 years, but then we would have more next year. So what are we looking at? 50s? An additional, actually it would have been more than that. The numbers say 350,000 in my head, but we probably would have done a lot different than that. We'd have probably had an outlay of what, about 750,000 this year?
Closer to probably 800,000, but yes.
Just keeping the numbers in my head, because I see where Commissioner Schuette's going with. He's trying to figure out if we're, doing better than, if this has turned out to be a positive, and it definitely looks like it has to me.
There's a slight overall benefit to the leasing program. The material benefit is that we don't have to come up with $1,500,000 to buy the vehicles up front in 1 year. We spread that over a 5-year cycle.
Yeah, and I guess that's why I was subtracting.
Okay, I'm in now. So okay, cool. Thank you, my dear. Bye-bye.
I can hear you, Ross.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was on.
Don't worry, you didn't say anything. You didn't say anything too exciting. So.
Oh, that's me.
For next month, we'll come up with a much closer comparative to what would have occurred versus what is occurring currently.
That'd be great.
And then I kind of jumped over the review of the 2020 budget amendments. I am still working on getting something together for you, so I will have that at the next briefing.
At the next briefing, you'll have a general of where we are with the COVID monies coming in and the like, an overview of everything for us.
That'll be part of it. Just the requested budget amendments.
Mhm.
So yes,
Including revenue in though.
yes.
Okay.
So that's all that I have. Thank you.
Thanks, Jennifer.
Thank you, Commissioner. So the CARES Act funding proposal allocation during last week's WASAC meeting, Commissioner Trask had brought forward information from Tony Hansen, who's the director managing the CARES Act funding through Department of Commerce. Some interesting information, which was that the Treasury, in its allocation of these CARES funds, has brought forward some clarification and some modifications to the guidelines. And it's been confirmed by the Office of the Inspector General, which was that they have deemed that all public health and public safety employees are substantially dedicated to COVID-19 duties, and therefore we may charge 100% of those payroll-related costs between March 1st and November 30th to CARES Act. What that means is that those dollars that were spent for payroll for public safety employees can be used to request for reimbursement from CARES 100%. And because of the guidance, we don't need to substantiate the reason or the purpose for those dollars and for those payroll costs, as the Treasury and the OIG has deemed it dedicated. And I'm reading from Tony's email. That means it doesn't matter if those payroll costs were already budgeted for. That means it doesn't qualify as filling shortfalls in revenue, even though it indirectly frees up local funds budgeted for those payroll costs. So what it basically says is that we can take those dollars that were spent for public safety as well as for public health and charge and recover those dollars from Department of Commerce as CARES Act funds in one reimbursement request, auditable for that one item, without any justification needed for what those dollars were dedicated to, because the definition is they're substantially dedicated to COVID by the sheer fact that they're public safety payroll costs. So this could change the entire spectrum of how we look at getting reimbursement for CARES Act dollars, because the costs involved, the Sheriff's Office estimate for months is $7,872,000 in salaries and benefits. If we deduct traffic policing, and I'm not sure we need to, but if we deduct traffic policing, which is about $1,505,000 for those 9 months, for that 9 month period, that leaves $6,367,000 available for reimbursement request. General fund has $5,211,000 of CARES Act monies available, which means that we have $1,156,000 of reimbursable expenses in excess of what we have as CARES Act funds. Added to that, consider we've already been reimbursed for $325,000. Those were the dollars that were given to the EDC to grant for business assistance. So we have in excess $1,481,000. So if the commission wants to change the perspective of what is being requested of CARES Act funding to simply request reimbursement for public safety expenses, payroll costs, then all of that can be requested for in one invoice and recovered as a $1 item. That doesn't preclude the board from following up with donating, granting, or supporting any of the existing CARES Act programs. What it does do is it limits the risk of audit exposure for each one of those individual items as it relates to substantiation, support, and documentation, because we only have the one item that we're requesting for in CARES dollars. It also allows the board to extend the time period for the funding of those resources, because the board has received $5,211,000 of CARES Act, which it then can appropriate as it would like for any of the purposes it deems appropriate. So the question is, does the board want to consider that prospect or continue down the path of going through each of these items individually and documenting and requesting for reimbursement for each of these items separately?
I think we also need to keep in mind too that some of our employees are grant funded. And so their salaries would not be right.
And so
I think there's a lot more research that we need to look into this a little bit deeper. I definitely still want to, in my opinion, I would like to make sure that we are helping everyone we can, so that I want to make sure that we're getting the EDC money and helping those people as well.
So I'll kind of just chime in here. So I think I have some concerns about it. I agree with Commissioner Trask that we need to do a little bit more consideration of this. I think if it may be allowable, appears to be allowable under the letter of the law. I'm not sure it's the intent or the spirit of the law as the CARES Act was passed. And I would need to see a clear path how we would still be able to fund the other commitments we made, and do that without exposing ourselves to liability the other way, from an audit perspective. I think, this is one of those situations where if it pencils and, we can chart a path out to funding those other commitments that we made, and maybe some others that are still, on the consideration list. I think that might change things, but I just, there's something to me that's somewhat unsettling about doing it this way. And I'm not saying no, but I'm also saying I think I need to see a little bit more thought in how we make this work. I don't want to be too clever by half on this. I want to make sure we do the right thing, and that we get funding out into the community, quickly and effectively, so that we're taking care of those community-wide issues.
So Frank, I love the simplicity of it, but at the same time, the dangers to me, you and I talked on the phone a little bit. I see some big dangers that I worry about for the county, and I'll explain why. Currently, we have addressed many different issues in the county where we have money going out. We have money that have gone out to the businesses, money that have gone out to the PUDs and the like. The thing that's scary about that is I'm not sure that would be okay just to take directly out of the general fund. I'm just not. I see an issue with giving out, hundreds of thousands of dollars to businesses out of our general fund. It was different when it came directly out of the CARES Act money. But if we were to change tracks now and go for the simplicity of being able to claim it, and put us at risk at being audited for, as a county for giving those funds out. I think those dangers are very, very high. Each and every business that we gave it to comes under a different scrutiny now. It just seems very scary. Now, for me, the best way may be just to do like we've been doing. Although it's more work, I understand that, but be prepared to take advantage and get every last dollar that's available at the end using that mechanism. So it's kind of a hybrid. We do what we're doing now, but be prepared to get every last dollar so it doesn't go back at the end by triggering this mechanism for collecting for law enforcement. That would be my preference, just for our safety as a county.
Yeah, and as I mentioned, this is something that came up last week. So there's obviously some more work that needs to be done, but it is an opportunity for us to move, to utilize this process in a different way, not precluding us from continuing down the path that we're currently going, which is to continue funding the EDC on a second tranche of dollars. And the EDC will be in later this morning to discuss how that would be, how that would come together. There are some questions still remaining in where we would like to, or how much we would like to spend for the Y programs. So we had the YMCA come forward and we put an earmark for $125,000. But that's to support the Y through the end of the school year. If we break that down into 2-month increments, which would be for the October and November timeframe, that would each month would be $13,888 to support them for the month of November, and then October's halfway completed, so we would only allocate half of that. So is that the dollar amount that the board would like to proceed with in granting to the Y program?
Frank, I'd like a little bit more information too. I'd like to know if they're ready to go. We could only fund them through the end of the cycle period. So we could not fund them through the entire school year.
Correct. And that's what I'm suggesting is they were requesting $125,000 to fund through the entire school year. So that would come to just under $14,000 a month. Since we're only eligible to fund through the end of November, they would only be they would only have 1 month and maybe a week or two of funding that would become available to them to November 30th.
Right. And with our short amount of time, would they be completely ready? I think I'd like a little more confirmation from them, a little more information, and also to take a look at the contracts.
Okay.
Have they presented, Frank, have they presented a scope of work or a proposal at all? I know that when we considered the North Mason Boys and Girls Club, they provided an outline back in August. Have we gotten anything similar from the Y?
No, but I'm sure they can turn around relatively.
Just a quick reminder to everyone to please mute themselves. If you're not speaking, please remember to mute yourself.
In the host.
I can hear you loud and clear.
Casey, please. There you go.
I can ask for that, and I'm sure they can turn it around relatively quickly. They have not given us a scope of work in a manner similar to what the Boys and Girls Club had.
Or any manner for that matter. It doesn't have to be a carbon copy. It could just be their way of doing it. I know that they've been able to manage to do that for the funding that they got in Thurston County, so it shouldn't be out of the realm of possibility.
I would assume that that's similar, and the contract that we have from Thurston County did have a scope of work. So assuming that that's the same proposal that they would put forward for Mason County, I would forward that to each of the commissioners. I think we already, yeah, I'll forward it. I'm not sure if I already have. Then the next question is how much of a second round of EDC funding is the commission considering?
I'm at the level of at least 300K with the possibility of maybe 600K, 200 per, but it would actually be more because if we wanted to, well, right now, just stick with that.
So, I guess that's a reasonable range. I be nice to have a reconciliation conversation about kind of what has been already allocated, what's been proposed, what's our capacity in CARES Act. I mean,
At the moment, we are at 300,000 for the EDC for the second tranche, and that puts us about $100,000 more than what the CARES Act funding has available for us, given everything else that the board has already put into the program. So one of the other considerations then would be to take part of what the Public Health CARES Act funding offered. So Public Health received a contract for $1,389,000 last week or 2 weeks ago at this point for them to spend towards CARES Act funding. The Building 10 quarantine and isolation facility plan, which required the repair of the roof, the repair of the seismic, and repair of asbestos to utilize that building as a quarantine and isolation facility, was about $800,000. So if some portion of that gets paid out of the public health side of CARES Act dollars, then that frees up $800,000 on the general fund side and gives us the ability to put $600,000 to the EDC.
So Frank, did we receive a list of, because I know that they had some ideas of how they would like to spend the money. I'd like to make sure that we're covering all, everything that.
We didn't hear you. We're not hearing you, Commissioner.
Pardon?
We weren't hearing you for some reason.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you now, but when you said pardon, you came back. Oh, internet connection is unstable. Here we go.
Here we go. Here we go again. So maybe when we're speaking, we just turn our cameras on. I don't know. So anyway, I was asking if we'd received a list from health where they're, I think that they already have obligated.
And the answer is not yet. I haven't received one. I spoke to Dave last week, Thursday, maybe Friday, and he said that he would be putting one forward and putting one together and getting it to me. Unfortunately, it didn't come in time for this briefing.
Okay.
So this is Dave. I spoke to Casey this morning, and he said it was sent over. So we will resend that. It's basically it's our requirements for the 1.3 million that came to us through Public Health had strings attached to it that we went through and built the straw man budget around those particular requirements.
Would this meet those strings?
Not for, so for example, we have already received $250,000 from federal money and state money that we've already billed staffing time to, so you can't turn around and bill that back to CARES fund because it's already been part of CARES funding.
Yeah.
So it doesn't free up that. So 1.38 million, we can bill back to on some things like the position that is up at, that we have working up there now that Christopher's sitting in, we can bill that piece back, but we can't do, for example, any of the nursing staff who's already been working under those other funds all along.
I guess my question was for is it usable under what Frank had just mentioned us to use it for?
Well, there are specific requirements for public health money. It has to go to COVID intervention. So, there's some guidelines around software, making sure people can work from home, contact tracing, contact testing, tracking, planning, those sorts of activities.
Speaking of that, the working from home and the remote, Frank, can that money be used for what we were talking about with the sheriff's department to front load that?
Yes.
Because that we need to get, that done too. If we get that out front, that'll help us in the budget for the next year.
Yes, no, that would be. Then there's one more item that came forward on the request. There was a request by financial services to put a drive-through window in their area, which came to about $3,000. Is the board okay of putting that onto the CARES Act?
At that cost and that benefit, I would be supportive of that. Kelly, you can pull that off, really? For $3,000? He disappeared. No.
So yeah, I did get a permit, or I went out and got a bid, and that's what it is for those windows in the back, to each just to slide to one side so they can deal with all the junior districts and everything, so they don't even have to come in. That's what it was. Just waiting for a thumbs up, and I will get that going.
Well, commissioners, I'm supportive at $3,000. I can't even imagine.
See, it is highly beneficial. I know Paige goes out to meet the folks, and so if we can protect her, that would be great.
Okay.
Yeah, I think.
And I'm sorry. Go ahead, Commissioner.
Yeah, I think that's fine. Would we be losing any parking or any? I mean, what's the?
No, it will be walk up 100%. Walk up to that window. They will call, or I'll have a buzzer or something with a little shelf. They can sign their paperwork and not even have to come into the building.
Are you going to have an awning then?
It's already got a little awning over that already. We'd have to look at the awning later, and I know that Patty is looking to think about that for the election site anyhow, so I would just include that then. Go over the whole back door, elections, the whole thing.
So that's where it would be, is down by that door?
Correct, right next to that second black door where there's two windows are.
Well, I think we ought to look at an awning for that area then.
Okay.
What did the city say about an awning? Did we get any confirmation back from them?
When we did the elections, we talked about a awning. I put in for a permit for an awning, and it ultimately went sideways. It was the things they wanted for the awning to how it was connected to the building and what we had to do, and it was absolutely crazy. So we put it off at this point in time and said we'd readdress it in later.
Do we at least have a tent? I haven't looked. Is there any tent for the observers?
Yes.
The Patty has got a tent that is coming to go over that whole area. So for the observers to come and watch and to wait in line, because I guess we expect a very big turnout.
I think you said that the tent was going to be a 10 by 60.
Yes. It'll go over the whole sidewalk.
That's quite the tent.
Yeah.
A big.
There's going to be a red carpet.
Big tent, if you will.
And then there's one more item, and that's the sheriff's office body and vehicle cameras. That's estimated at $800,000. That was based on the conversation that the commission had with the sheriff's office for body cameras and vehicle cameras. The Okanagan County put forward their authority or their request by their sheriff's office as CARES relatable and reimbursable. Is the commission okay with putting that on our list?
So I guess my question is, and I saw the email and I get that, but like where on the list? I mean, we're already, as it is, over the 5.211 million based on what's on there. So what is coming off? I mean,
No, that's in that 5.211 dollar amount,
there it
and
is.
it's covered under expenses for public safety measures.
Now, wouldn't we be better off if reimbursement of law enforcement is a reality? Wouldn't we be better off just spending that out of the general fund instead of having something happen where it may get kicked back? It makes more sense because I know that's an allowable expense out of the general fund. Nobody's going to come after us. No lawsuits for that. If we collect it one way and spend it out the other, I think that's probably the more beneficial, safer way to do it.
So Commissioner, if I'm hearing you correct, you reimburse salaries with that 800,000 and then buy the cameras out of the freed up. I think that makes the most sense.
Yeah,
I agree with that.
that's safest.
Okay.
We don't have to worry about it coming kicked back.
So I know that they also talked about another position. That money does not include the position, correct?
Right.
That is correct. It does not include the position. And I believe that position was $85,000 a year.
So so basically with making one decision, you're making two.
Correct.
If not more, but at a minimum of two. So
what I can do for the next briefing is to segregate this in that kind of a manner, which is to say, instead of taking the $800,000 out of CARES Act, utilize the public safety payroll costs and recover those and use those extra dollars then to purchase the cameras.
I would go, oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, right above where you have the body and video or vehicle cameras, you have courthouse ventilation HVAC repair. Was that moved over to REIT?
It will need to be moved over to REIT.
Okay.
Because it will not be recoverable under CARES Act at this point.
But we've been doing better on our REIT anyway, so now's a good time for that.
Yeah. So, I guess, Frank, as you do that, I guess my request would be to kind of scrub our list for, this isn't going to be the right phrasing or terminology, but,
I know what you're asking for.
Okay.
Yeah.
Does everybody know what I'm asking for?
I do, yes.
Okay.
Yes, I do.
I'll scrub the list for those items that can be recovered from both circumstances and see which is the best way to utilize the funding, whether to take it direct out of CARES or to recover sheriff's office payroll salaries and benefits costs and use general fund dollars to cover those expenses.
Frank, also line 31. I do not believe that is a CARES or is CARES eligible.
I don't have the line numbers on mine. What
sorry.
item was that?
It's the Port of Allen. Port of Allen COVID-related mitigation costs. It states specifically in there that we cannot use that for ports or for.
Yep. Okay. I think that covered it. And then, like I said, the EDC will be coming in to discuss how they would allocate and distribute their program in the briefing later this morning.
Another quick question on that. So as we look at the salary support to EDC,
yes,
maybe consider what our capacity would be to pay that out of 09 to free up a little bit more space in CARES Act.
Yes, I will do that. out of this year's 09.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because that, I mean, that just kind of ticks that number up higher that we're able to grant to businesses, and it still gets them additional support.
Yep,
Just a thought.
I will take a look at that. Next item is the counter offer on Lake Boulevard. So we had an offer from Habitat for Humanity for $50,000 on this parcel. The county came back and countered at $60,000, and Habitat for Humanity has come back and countered with $42,500.
I can share. I missed that the last time that it was Habitat that done it. A little thing of a little piece of history. Many years ago, we actually scrubbed through tax parcels and were able to get properties to them for next to nothing as the nonprofit that used it for the benefit of the community. Seeing that I missed it this time, I'm wondering if we even need to. Well, I'll change. I'll just be in favor of this if we decide to move forward as it stands.
Same here. I didn't recall that being Habitat when we discussed that previously.
Yeah, how did we miss that? Because I think I would have noticed. I guess not.
So I'm okay with their counter.
As am I.
Commissioner, did you see it as Habitat last time?
Honestly.
Yeah, I'm wondering about that. I'm going to go through my stuff.
Yeah, I can't say. I don't recall.
Lots of things going.
So many things.
Next item is reclass request from Public Works and Dawn. You're muted, Dawn.
Good morning, commissioners.
Good morning.
The first item I have is the reclass request for the senior accounting tech position to go to a program support technician position. The union came to the director with working with their member and reviewed the job duties that the member said they were performing, which did align up more with the program support position, which is outlined in the reclass policy. If it's suitable for a higher classification, that we would move forward with that. So it did meet the guidelines. Frank and I reviewed the proposed new job description. It also allows for this position to, quite often at the current senior accounting tech position, the person is not required to do any training of subordinates or lower class positions. And this program support position actually outlines that they would do that without needing additional pay, which is typically called lead pay in this CBA. So it addresses that too. They also made changes to include liens for processing legal documents with filing with county auditor, bankruptcy, process the bankruptcy claims. Those have been duties that have been kind of hanging out in the wind, not knowing who is actually doing them. And this solidifies whose responsibility it is for that position. This was worked out with the new finance manager up there under Public Works too, Victor Rett. Any questions?
Would that require, is this going to need to be done through a budget supplemental, or do they have capacity to get through?
It's my understanding they have capacity to make it through this year. They had some vacant positions during the budget year in the finance department, and that would be able to absorb that.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Can I move this forward to the next briefing or next action agenda?
I'm good with it. I don't know where-
I'm okay with it. I have some other things I'd like to discuss later, but I'm okay.
Okay. Commissioner Netherland?
Yes, okay.
Okay. The next thing I have is the collective bargaining agreement for Teamsters Mason County Community Family Health staff has been ratified by the members, and I'm requesting to move that forward for ratification by the commissioners on the next action agenda.
Please do.
I'm good.
Okay. That one, just for the record, that one does include retro back to January 1, 2020.
Sounds good.
We're all, everything is, we're all clear on everything in there and everything matches and everybody's good.
Yes.
That's good to hear.
Small unit. It wasn't as complex in figuring out where people go on the new salary scale and the new job titles. And so there were several revisions, but yes, it was much less complex than general services is. So
Sounds good.
The next thing I have is the medical contribution rates. Once we ratified the collective bargaining agreements for both the general services and the community family health, we are in a pooling method. So we need to adjust the rates for 2019 for general services collective bargaining agreement and their contribution rates. So their contribution rate goes up to, for those with dependents, goes up to $1,443.03 per month. So if anybody had out-of-pocket payments during 2019 for their dependents, it would be adjusted for just the difference between what they originally had on their 2018 contribution versus their 2019 contribution. And that's a small number. I don't have the exact amounts right now. And then moving forward to January 1, 2020, adjusting for both general services and community health back to January 1, their contribution rate would be $1,602.67 for those families that have dependents. And then it pulls in all the rest of us, elected officials, non-represented, prosecutor's office, all the rest that are in the pooling, and it adjusts our rates moving forward, though not with a retro. Starting November 1st, our dependent contribution would also be $1,602.67 per month as a whole, but that would not be a retro, that would be us moving forward. So I'm asking to move that forward to the next agenda action item too.
I'm good.
Yes.
Good.
Okay. So the last thing I have is to bring parity for the elected official, non-represented, $52 per month increase for 2021. That would bring our total to $1,362 per month as a contribution for us as the collective bargaining agreements have. And this is needed to make this decision in order for me to do the pooling rates for 2021 for all of our ed group.
I'm good.
Yes.
Fine with me.
Okay, so I'll move that one forward also, and I'll get the rates ready. Thank you, commissioners.
Thank you.
And the last three items we have are with Ross in regard to Untitled Tractor.
Good morning, commissioners. How are we doing?
Good.
Good, very good, very good. The first one we have is a request to replace the Parks Department Kubota tractor and attachments. The tractor that they currently have is a Kubota that is 30 plus years old. It is, it's gone through welding. It's gone through all kinds of things to keep this machine going, and it is on its last leg. They've found that it's hard to even find parts, that even the guys are having to makeshift parts for it because it is so old. What they would like to do is, there has been money put aside in ER&R for the last 2 years for a new rig originally for Parks Department. They would like to switch it from it being a rig to being this tractor, because they feel they could use the tractor a little bit. Actually, they could use the tractor a lot more than the rig. Excuse me. And that they have gone on to using the motor pool, which there's several trucks going to be replaced through motor pool, that they would like to use this dollars that they had placed back, which is $25,851, and put it toward purchase of a new tractor. The issue with the new tractor is the new tractor will be probably over $50,000 total. So what we will need to do is put out a sealed bid. We've already got a couple of bids come in. That's how we know it's going to probably be over 50,000 for this piece of equipment. And what I'm looking for is a approval to go ahead and put out a request for sealed bids for a Kubota tractor loader backhoe model L47 with attachments to replace the older Kubota.
What are we going to do with the old one? We're going to surplus it out?
We're going to surplus it out, yes.
So Ross, real quick question. Why Kubota? I mean, we went tractor hunting and we didn't get a Kubota because it was expensive. We got a Mahindra because it was quite a bit cheaper. So is there a reason that you're going with a Kubota and not looking at all tractors?
No, not really. I asked Bud what he was looking at, and we had a Kubota, so we was looking at using another Kubota. I don't know if they maybe have some kind of parts already that they have in stock for Kubotas. I do not know. We can actually open it up probably to a wider look at the different, as long as it matches up to the standards that they want.
So I just hope whatever we choose on the process that we're looking for commercial use.
Right. Okay. Mm-hmm. We can do that.
Yeah, I think it might make more sense to just put together your specs, and kind of like leave brand out of it, and
okay,
let the bids come in how they come in, and then make a decision that way. Enterprise doesn't lease tractors.
No, not at this time. They don't. I've asked.
Well, that's another thing we can also look at is, do we want to do a lease instead of a purchase outright?
I would say it depends on the warranty.
Yeah, definitely. Yes.
Yeah.
And the cost of the lease. Why don't you, for laughs, put that together for us, show us what that looks like.
I can do that. Okay, I will do that. Alrighty. Okay, and on to my next, which this one should be a no-brainer here. We have another grant that came in from Homeland Security for let's see, this one is our Homeland Security for 2020. It dropped down quite a bit from last year to this year. It actually dropped almost $8,000, but we're still getting $20,441 in this new grant that's coming from Homeland Security. This is the same grant that we've been receiving for probably 12, 14 years now. And so we take what we can. This is the one that we usually use toward communications. We use it towards secondary power for all of our partners in law enforcement, fire, us here at DEM, and the hospital has used it in the past. So we're looking at, I'm looking at getting authority to go ahead and sign the grant, which I'll put toward the November 3rd meeting for the Board of County Commissioners.
I'm good.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have, those two.
And then commissioners, we have one last item, Lodging Tax Advisory Committee recommendation. Diane?
Morning, Commissioners. Lodging tax met last Monday and are recommending the contracts we have in 2020 be extended into 2021 with the same terms, the same funding. Is that good to put on November 3rd agenda?
Absolutely good with me.
Good with me.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's all we had then.
Thanks, Frank. All right, let's move on to our community services and combination of support services discussion of the Housing Authority.
So commissioners, I have with me Dave and Dave's group in regards to the questions and options that we have available under the request in regards to the modifications or support of the Housing Authority. And in that regard, Dave, why don't you take over and forward with what the items and information was that you were able to put together.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Morning, Dave.
So in going through some of these documents in your packet, you've got, get my computer to scroll here. Some of what's being allocated currently, we've got in the bill here, this Senate Bill 1406, which delineates what counties can do. We've looked at a number of the funding sources we've included in the documentation of the sources that we currently have, and then kind of the strings or the brackets around those funds as to what they can and can't be used for. On the phone with us, I have, I think Casey's on here and Lydia's on here to add more light on that. So Housing Authority is in place where they're looking for some help from the county. And we put together kind of this packet is a list of kind of everything that kind of goes towards housing within the county. And then on Friday, we had a phone call with the state director of the Housing Authority Association. So we talked to this gentleman about housing authorities. And one of the questions is, so who's ultimately responsible for the housing authorities? And one of the answers we came up with is, well, where does the money go? And to try to follow that back. We looked at what happened with the Richland Housing Authority, which went defunct approximately 12 years ago. They're still not clear about where the assets went. They were primarily run by HUD funding. Wow.
Sorry, it didn't mean to laugh that hard. But...
Yeah, sorry. Yeah. We are different in that we have different properties and we are funded by HUD money, we are funded by rural development money, and we are funded through Department of Agriculture money. So we have different funding sets, which adds a little complexity to it. So HUD, rural development, USDA, and we just try to get kind of a background on housing authorities. And if a housing authority dissolves, where does it go back to? And it looks like it would come back to the county because the county did requested that that the housing authority stood up in the first place many years ago. So that's kind of where we were at. We brought these documents forward for everyone to look at, and I believe we have on here, Kathy Haig, are you on? Oh, there she is. Yes, you're not unmuted, but you are there. So, and Kathy can give you a little more background on where we stand right now. But we did bring these documents forward to show what our current funding is, where it's currently passed to, and from what the strings attached to those funds are. And Kathy, I think you are unmuted now.
Okay. Thank you for inviting me on. I'm glad I finally made it on. I am happy to help in any way, and there are a few more issues which we talked about. The response.
Oh, we lost you.
Pardon me?
We lost your voice for a minute.
Oh, okay. Are you okay now?
Good.
Okay. Just, I don't know if you got a chance to look at the two proposals for purchase, and I would love to tell this guy that we're not going to consider it and moving on, or yes, we're going to consider it and give him some sort of timeline, what we think we can do with it. So I don't know if you have that information, but that was one of the main reasons I had brought this whole issue to the board. And we do have 3 different funding methods, which makes it more confusing. RD is actually the Department of Agriculture in the codes. The second is a tax credit, and that has been funded by the mortgage is completely different. And then there is the HUD property, which is Pine Garden. So if you were going to sell, or if you're going to change anything, those you have to go to 3 different authorities, 3 different fundings, and it's not simple. It's complicated. So I'm happy to give you, some of my thoughts on what I had presented to me as a Housing Authority Executive Director. I don't know if you wanted to get into that now, but somehow I think if you have a person, to me, it could probably be a person who is already on staff somewhere. And because I really feel that the job itself that needs to be done is to have an office, have a phone number, have a place where all the files are kept that is within the county somewhere. And the person who maintains that probably doesn't need to be more than 25%, maybe 50% FTE. It's not a full-time job, in my opinion, after doing it all this time. So I'm interested in what you're thinking you want to do with it. That's all.
So,
to supplement what Kathy was saying, the executive director, if we were to go outside to look at a position for placing somebody into that position, would be somewhere between $50,000 and $90,000
right.
To pay for out of the Housing Authority resources.
And are those funds available? I mean, I don't want to say that there's some that we could create the position if we don't have the funds.
Well, it would have to be created by the Housing Authority because it's an independent agency.
I'm gonna say I'm having a problem with this whole thing because, again, this is not ours. We need to help them establish a new board or do something like that. We need to have Tim online here with us, our attorney, and talking to him. It's still where I thought we were in the beginning. If something was to happen with the authority, we don't have authority over it. If something was to happen with it, the properties would come to us just like it would as a nonprofit or anything else when they have an end entity that would receive it. As for the debts and stuff like that, because we did not sign on the lines with these, those debts would still be out there. So those entities would have the ability to either get payoff from us if we owned it or sold it, or for them to foreclose on the properties. But it is not the counties. And I'd love for us to do something to strengthen this organization, get them up so they can make the decisions as it's actually theirs.
So I have quick questions. So, and Kathy, you may be able to speak to this a little bit. So, I think it was back in 2018, you had worked with Representative McEwen on legislation that helps clarify what our role can be with housing authorities.
Correct.
Can you talk a little bit about that? That was passed. It was signed into law, and it basically says that we can utilize county resources to support a housing authority. Am I reading that correctly?
That's correct. We had a meeting with the representative and staff for the local government, and they said you don't really need to change the language of the law, but we needed to clarify it for your purposes. You were at that meeting, Kevin, so that's what we did. We clarified it.
Question on my part. I apologize.
So we clarified the language that it is something that county government can do. It's not a gifting of public funds, and the housing authority is considered a special purpose taxing district. It is not 501c3.
And I believe we can help them financially. I don't have any issue there. It's just making the decisions and stuff that I'm uncomfortable with, considering it's not ours.
Well, you don't have a housing authority. You have me helping you right now, but we've not had any board meetings. And I have one other person, Gary Yando, that we meet outside the post office every once in a while and talk about it. But the other two people have never shown up since the beginning of COVID.
So with other special interests or junior taxing districts, I guess this is a question for either Frank or Dave. What happens if there's no quorum? I know in other cases, the commission would step in and be that would continue operations until a quorum could be appointed. Is that the case with this, or is this treated differently than, say, a cemetery district or whatever other example we can come up with? But is this treated differently or the same?
I don't know. I would defer that to a Tim Whitehead question.
Yeah, and is there an action we have to take in order to make that happen for us to have that authority? So I'd like to bring Tim into these conversations so we can, I just don't want to do it wrong. I have no problem with helping. I want to help him. I have no problem even giving him some money to get some of this done. I just don't want to do it wrong.
I think at a minimum, we have to look at putting some money into funding an executive director type position. I think that would help begin to untangle the knot that is the Housing Authority Board. Concurrently, I think we should also be advertising, starting tomorrow for board members.
Yeah.
And get that process moving, and then get some clarification from Tim on what we do in the event that there is no quorum. Who acts in that body then? I mean, it has to be somebody. Whether or not that's us, I don't know, but we need to figure that out.
So I would ask that you do go back and look at the resolution or the document that established the Housing Authority in 1972 and look at what it says. I think it'll be a little more clear as to what's to happen if the board doesn't meet or it's no longer there. But it says over and over again that you must have an executive director or a secretary. And at one time you did appoint one, and then that person was let go pretty quickly after she was set up in that position. So that's all I know is that the county did help for a significant period of time, one way or the other. I'm not sure exactly how they did it before, but the document that establishes the Housing Authority says there will be a secretary executive director, which there never has been, or what, at least not that I know of.
So, and then I guess the other part of the question, and this is definitely for Dave and Lydia, is would this be eligible to be funded out of our current housing funds that we have, recording fees, CHT, et cetera? Or is this something that we would have to look at doing through the general fund, the current expense?
So this is Dave. As I go through the what we're currently funding and the guidelines, typically what we're trying to do is gain new housing, and they're not set up to support current housing in this particular fashion. Is that correct? Is that your understanding as well, Lydia?
Yeah, that's what I understand as well. It does not fit. We could do things like help support the capital fixing that we use those funds for, but not to support a housing position.
So it would have to be current expense based on your read of that.
Yeah, that's how I see it. Yeah.
When we had talked with the gentleman this last week, we talked with the gentleman from the State Housing Authority Association, and he gave us a couple of good places to connect maybe Tim Whitehead with, an attorney that works very extensively in housing authorities. And we thought maybe we might be able to gather some information first before we jump to putting an executive director in to kind of figure out where are these properties at? What's the potential of these properties? To get a little guidance before we just hire somebody to continue what's been going on for some time already, and maybe get together a team that's kind of looking into what can present to the commission as to what does this whole thing look like after all these years? Is it sustainable? I know there was the question about, do we sell one? We don't even know, are they even sustainable? There's been a lot of difficulties in understanding all the ins and outs of what's happening with these properties and why they haven't been sustainable, why they're going into disrepair. So he did give us a number of connections that we thought we could recommend if a team gets put together to try to look at some of these different things. He gave us 3 people to contact and get a little bit more information. And then I think the other thing is we talked about maybe a feasibility study on these properties to even see where they're at.
So I think, who would be a team that would look into this? I think we need to kind of drill down on that and understand where that work is going to be done and who's going to lead it and how we pay for it. We need to get some recommendations on that.
Okay. Go ahead, Lydia.
Oh, I was just agreeing with you.
Commissioner, one of the things we need to do is what you said. We need to go out immediately for board members and start to establish a board. I want to let everybody know that all this transition stuff happened when I first got here. So I know something about it. We weren't making decisions on it. It was happening, kind of around us. But one of the things that was happening is it was turning out that our staff that were working or helping at that time on that housing authority was actually signing documents as the housing authority and making decisions and putting the commission or putting the county at liability and risk. And whatever we do, I just want to make sure that we don't do that again, that they work as the housing authority and that the risks and the decisions are made there, not with a person that's working for us that doesn't even bring it to the commission.
Would the county consider doing a consultation firm to look at this whole thing? So it'd be outside of the county paying for that?
I like the suggestion of putting a team together and then looking at the possibilities or our options. I mean, we're pretty strapped for funding right now. And so if we can do it internally, I think that would be a good bet, but the team has to be strong, has to have, our attorney and Kathy Haig and others from the housing that know something about housing.
Commissioners, if I could make a recommendation, I would see a team being a commissioner, me, Frank, Tim, and probably Todd from public health, who has an understanding of the funding sources and how they're currently applied, and or Casey, because he manages those funds. So that would be, and then Kathy, of course, as that team that would work on this. But again, start putting out some feelers for board members as soon as possible.
I would just like to say that the buildings are in good shape right now. I mean, we have some roofing that needs to be done. There are things that need to be done, but the housing is, you know, even anyway. We're not in the hole. We have the units are all full except for a couple that are being repaired, and that's the key to not going under. And the other challenge that we will have, and the reason other housing authorities go down, is because we are small. Large housing authorities actually own properties, and that, you know, if you have enough of them, you can make enough money. Where we are limited on how much you can charge people by whatever program they're under, and the cost of taking care of everything goes up almost exponentially. And the funding of each rental unit from the federal government has been held at a bare minimum. And that's where things get so terribly out of balance. So I think there are some options. I suspect the county is going to have to find some way to have stability of funding of a person who is like at least a secretary and has the office and the paperwork. I'm really uncomfortable with me having it in my house. And I get, you know, I had 3 phone calls yesterday or 2 days ago on a Saturday from people trying to find housing. I guess they're sent to me from the county. I'm not sure exactly how they get it, but you know, doing that on a daily or weekly basis is something I've done, but I don't really feel I should be doing that either. But I'm happy to help in any way you let me know. I care about it. I want it to be successful. Getting members on the board and having strong leadership and support is my goal. And don't forget about the options on selling the properties. So that's another whole issue, but I would love to be able to tell this guy, you know, come back in a year, or no, we would really like to think about this. And maybe Randy, I've talked to you about this before. Maybe you have some stronger opinions on it.
Yeah, no, I love it. I love the idea of it. My only thing, if I was on your board and I was giving advice, my recommendation would be to tell this person that will probably be going out for bids shortly. Please put your bid together with the idea that we understand that there may be a benefit of you keeping those costs low for the people that are in there, and that might be considered a value towards anybody else's bid that may be coming in. I don't know how to structure that, but I can tell you it sure would be incredible if we could sell it. There'd be a profit for your organization, and able to keep the rates low while you amass enough to build another whole new building that brings in housing for these folks. Remember, if you take 3 or 4 off your pocket, then off your back, that's a lot easier to take care of, especially when it's a newer unit.
Hey, Kathy, it's Dave. I have a question on Cascade. What is the end of their contract period?
Oh, you're muted. You're muted, Kathy. Kathy.
It's an ongoing contract. It's an ongoing contract.
So is it yearly? You're signing it yearly or?
Yearly, and as of the end of September is when the new contract begins. So they're starting the new contract. I haven't seen the budgets. They are supposed to have the budget sent to me. I've sent Frank the financials that they send to me every month, and the audits that I have to request, and then I get the audits back, and that's something I have on file, are all the audits. The financial audits have been just fine with Cascade. That's what I have.
So if I may remind the board as well, if there's a consideration for selling, the housing authority would need to go out for a yellow book appraisal prior to putting out an RFP for a request for proposals on the purchasing side. And that would cost some dollars as well. So the shortfall on the dollar side are, one, to do a Yellow Book appraisal, as well as two, to get an executive secretary director to the Housing Authority to fund through their resources. In regards to Cascade Management, there are expenditures annually of something south of 300,000. I think in 2017 or 18, it was $279,000 a year for management services. So the team that we would put together might want to consider looking at what does Cascade Management do, and does it make sense to pull some of that in to an executive position to maybe shift some of the funding from paying Cascade to allowing the Housing Authority to do that work. It may not be dollar for dollar, but at least it could be some recovery of some current costs that don't have to be covered by the county.
That's possible.
Yeah, even setting up a room that has one for an on-site manager and another for an on-site maintenance may be enough to bring a lot of that down, take a lot of the work off. I myself, what I would like to see is, first of all, we have to get a board together or help them get a board together. If we don't do that, I don't know what's going to happen there. But even when we do that, they could change their mind on what they want to do. That's the interesting thing about it. But I'd like to see us offer up the ability to help pay for that appraisal, because I think that is going to be an absolute necessity if they're going to move forward. But again, if we put together a board, they may not want to even move in that direction. I know Kathy had talked with a board before, the one that was in place, and they did not want to move in that direction. Is that correct, Kathy?
Their concern is that they remain low income housing. And if you sell the property, you usually can get, and I mean, the people that buy it plan to keep it low income because they get tax, they get on their property taxes, they don't have to pay. But they also have to work with federal government, HUD, tax credit, and RD, or the Department of Agriculture. 3 different groups, and it's not simple, it's confusing. And so some get into it and think, oh, this will work. And then you find your hands are tied on so many issues that they decide not to. And then they try to drift away from being low income housing.
Have you talked to Fred Finn about this by chance? He used to have those organizations that he did where they did that stuff and they refurbed them and kept them low income.
I would highly recommend that we get Fred Finn to be on this review group. He's great. He would know a lot, that's for sure, and would probably do it.
I agree.
So what I would suggest then, we'll move forward with Dave and myself and developing a team. Which commissioner would like to be a part of that team?
I would, if nobody else wants to. I'd like to see this done, but I don't have to do it if the others are open for it. I may not even be here, so you never know till it's over, right?
And Gary Yando is the, steadfast still member of the board, and I'm sure he would like to be part of that discussion anyway. He knows county government well and cares a lot.
Well, the plus side is with you and Gary, you can both be on it and not worry about triggering a quorum. So that's
that's true.
What we're learning there. So I'm fine with Commissioner Netherland being involved in that if everybody else is.
Yep, I'm good.
And then we'll get a cost for a Yellow Book appraisal and then come back to the board, as well as tie up a much closer cost on what an executive secretary would cost. We've passed around a job description for that. And so we can kind of tie in a salary to that job descriptions and then come back to the board with some follow-up recommendations to include Tim Whitehead's input as well.
Great.
Sounds good.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you. Thanks, Kathy, for all you do. You're awesome.
Kathy.
Thank you. This is fun. Thanks, guys. I'm gonna go now.
All right, thanks, Kathy. All right, so are we going to put together an announcement for the, to get extra members for the board? Or to get board members?
Yeah, it would be great if we could see that turned around for tomorrow's meeting.
Yeah.
Please.
I will work with Diane to make that happen.
All right, thank you. All right. Dave, you're still on. Hello, Dave. Dave, you have more on the agenda.
I'm here. My mute button wasn't working right. Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
All right. All right. So, good morning again. And we're going to start off with Kel, please.
Morning.
Good morning.
Okay, so I've got two items. One is I'm very happy to we've appointed Josh Luck as our lead building inspector. And that is effective October 1st. He's already been a tremendous asset to the community development department, so I'm very happy about that. And then I also, unfortunately, had to let a building inspector go last week. So I want to backfill that position. And we are already have the inspector job posted because we also are losing Dave Kuzwa at the end of this month as he's retiring. So we'll have two positions open, and I'd like to post for a building inspector 2, 3, 4, or 5. We have a few candidates that already came in and one person that would meet the building inspector 5 position. And so we're looking forward to interviews already on Wednesday.
I'm supportive.
I'm supportive.
Yep, I'm good.
Excellent. That's all I have.
That was easy.
So, and the next one is, this is one we've talked about before, but we've made some changes this last week. And this is about the community services pandemic response community health specialist. That's a mouthful. So we have been working, we pulled one position out of community services and went up to DEM with that position, and that's been working with us on COVID response. We're going to change that in order to continue forward and make this a community health specialist working in pandemic response with the funding tied directly to pandemic response funding. So whether it's CARES funding or for next year, if COVID, and obviously it's going to continue into 2021, we have some funding through Foundational Public Health Services funding available to do that work. And we put this position after much discussion under the Teamsters Union, and the position description is in your packet. It's community health specialist 1, 2, or 3. We'd like to create, post, and fill, and put this on the agenda for tomorrow.
I didn't see anything stating the pay.
Okay. And I'll get that off the new union contract, because we just got that established today. So we can get that to you for that piece as it goes forward.
So it depends on the applicant pool and what they would be qualified for as if it
Right.
was 1, 2, or 3, and then based on the CBA that we're ratifying.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Commissioners, this is Dawn. The community health specialist position as a entry level 1 based on, in 1, 2, or 3 is their skill level and experience. So that starts out at $37.93 per month. And at the very top of the scale for a community health specialist 3, which usually has 9 years of experience or a master's degree plus experience, and that goes up to $6,172 per year. And again, that's the wide range from entry with no skills to a very skilled professional.
Thanks, Don. So you're asking if this can be put on the agenda for tomorrow?
Yes, please. Our time is kind of short, so just to give an idea, we have CARES funding available through December 30th, and then FPHS funding that would kick in as of January 1st.
I'm supportive.
Yep, I'm good.
Yes.
Okay, next item, we have Alex and Kel.
Yeah, good morning, commissioners.
Morning.
So we've got some permits upgrades here. I'm not sure how much Chris or Kel has maybe spoke about this in the past, but part of our upgrades to SmartGov was we've kind of known that we've needed this additional software upgrade in order to do full plan review, digital plan review, making that more seamless through the SmartGov system. With COVID, it's kind of pushed things forward on our need for this, and we're looking to make those upgrades now. So I did attach our budget, so that would be around a little over 10,000 for the first year, and then we've got about close to 5,000 as an annual renewal.
So Alex, then the initial 10, a little bit over 10, you would be requesting to come out of CARES Act, and that is on the non-public health side of CARES Act. Is that correct? That's on the general CARES Act.
Yeah, I'd have to refer to Dave. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, that's correct.
So just confirming out of the general fund, CARES Act side.
Correct.
And is it a 15? Is it 15,000 to include the annual renewal?
Yeah, that last total item, I got a little carried away in Excel there. Really what you're looking at is 10,000 is the initial year, and then every year thereafter is 4,900.
Gotcha. Thank you for clarifying.
Yeah, I'm good with that if we can make it fit on the CARES Act side for the first year.
As am I.
Yes.
Okay. And then are we needing to put this through to action, or are we good on this?
Probably action would be my guess.
Okay. Yep, we can do that.
Yeah, I think anything that has to, anything like this, I think has to go before the commissioners for approval.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, Alex.
Okay, so the next item, last item I have here is a Healthcare Authority contract K3929 Community Prevention and Wellness. And this is Amendment 2. So this is another one of those funds in very similar to the consolidated contract. And then it comes out every 2 years. And this is part of a 4-year program. This is the second 2 years of that 4-year program. It provides $230,000 for work for statement of work, coordination of prevention services, community coalition work, marijuana work. It's just a continuation of the work we're already doing.
I'm good.
Same, good with me.
Yes.
Okay, so that is my last item, commissioners.
Commissioners, this is Dawn. Can I interrupt for 1 minute? On Josh Luck's appointment of lead pay, that needs to go on the agenda too. Since it's dated for October 1st, can we put that on tomorrow's agenda too?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I just assumed that it would be.
So is there a particular change between what would be on tomorrow and what was approved on August 25th?
Yeah, so Commissioners, Dave, we put a 1-year limit on it.
Okay.
So we did make it time constrained.
Yeah, I'm good.
The first approval gave them authority to post it internally in their unit to seek who are they going to select for the position. And
Gotcha.
now the form needs to be signed by the commission.
Gotcha. Okay, doke.
Thanks, Don, for clarifying as well.
Okay, are there any questions?
I do not have any.
Not for me.
Okay, with that, I will mute.
If I may, Commissioners, there was one item that we had on our list, which was commissioner discussion. This was in regards to the $5,000 annual contribution to the Gorst Coalition for Commissioner Netherlands' request.
Yeah, thank you for taking a minute on this. I'm sure you guys all know that Derek Kilmer and others have been working real hard on a coalition to get and acquire funding for the Gorst interchange fixes, which is in the hundreds and hundreds of millions. But it is a huge event and would have a huge effect on our economic community in the North Mason region at the very minimum. But I think it would have a beneficial effect through the whole county as they try to reroute traffic through there, and especially once the bypass is put into place, the freight corridor. With that being said, there's a group of people that are working real hard to establish what to do and how to do it. One of the things they're looking to do is actually bring on a lobbyist, a professional team that does this, and that costs money. With that being said, I would hope that we support this wholeheartedly. We actually lived off the backs of others when it came to the freight corridor funding and being able to have money for that because we didn't have money. This is a situation where we could really help out. So my request is to for us to put in about $5,000 a year in more of a long term for up to 5 years. But I know we can't do that into our budget, but the goal would be to do it as long as that until these fundings become available. And it may be much sooner than that with things that are happening right now in DC. But I'm also asking that we front load and we do one immediately this year at 5,000 and then put it in our budget to also do it for this next year's budget. It would have a huge impact and it would greatly help them to get started. And right now, one of the things they're needing is some leadership that way financially to put this thing forward. So I would hope you would consider that.
Yeah, Commissioner, I appreciate you bringing this forward. Just two questions. One is who's going to be the fiscal agent on it? And number two, is 5,000 enough?
Probably 5,000 is never enough. I'll hit the first one first. But at the same time, that's the number that has been floated out there for each individual entity. And so it would make sense that we stand with where they're at size-wise. As for the fiscal agent, they're working on that right now. They're in talks with one of the chambers of commerce to be the fiscal agent, but we'll know officially here shortly. And we want to know that before we extended the check. But
yeah,
5,000 right now, it would be a big help to them. It would be the one we would be the one that starts the process of them all putting in money to it.
Yeah, I'm supportive, just pending that fiscal agent designation, so we're all clear on that. But
are you supportive of the 5,000 this year and in the 5,000 in the next year?
Yeah, absolutely. I don't. Sorry, yeah. I mean, but as soon as we have, not until we have clarity on the fiscal agent. But I'm all for paying this year and next, and seeing where we go.
Okay. I'm all for supporting, but I'd like to know who the fiscal agent will be.
Yeah, can we get this on our agenda and get it forward? But we won't pay.
We lost your voice.
Can we put this on the agenda so we can get it out earlier rather than later? They're going to have other meetings here shortly, but we won't pay anything out without the fiscal agent in place, of course.
So where would that come from? Would that come out of non-departmental, or would we need? I guess would maybe have to do a supplemental just so we're, get that attached to that. I
Well,
don't
one of
know.
the questions would be, can we use road fund money for it? But I think that's one we need to ask them. But I would think it is for planning for it. But if we
Yeah,
can, the general fund.
I'd hesitate to put it on the agenda until we have more information.
Okay.
I mean, I support it, but I just feel like we need to know a few more details.
Okay.
Hang on here. I'm just looking at
That's what I was doing too, and
our calendar. So, Commissioner Nevlin, do you feel like you could pull down some additional information by November 3rd?
yes, I'm looking at that. So if we can, we put it on the agenda now for that one, and I'll get you all the information. We could pull it if something comes out bad.
Yeah, I mean, I would be fine putting a placeholder on, and then, you know, we're going to brief again on the second, or we'll be in budget workshops in the second, so we can, you know, hopefully have that information then. And if we're comfortable, we can go forward with the third. If we're not comfortable, we can, you know, continue to track it down.
Yep.
I think
We also have a meeting on the 23rd. Oh, sorry. I was looking at November.
I was going to say where? I'm comfortable with that. If we can't get it all figured out by then we don't need to pass it anyway. So I'm very comfortable with that. If we could just put it on the agenda for that time at this moment, we'll pull it if there's any problem.
I'm good with that.
Thank you. That's all I had.
so. Are we still doing commissioner discussion, or do we want to move on to our guests?
Are we finished with commissioner discussions?
Well, I have one thing, but I can wait if we want to just keep moving.
Yeah. Might as well hit it now, Commissioner. We're in it.
Yeah, just a real quick item. You know, so as we continue to talk about CARES Act funding and those kinds of things, I think we should consider maybe just doing a letter to both Commerce and the governor asking for another extension of the November 30th deadline. I don't have high hopes necessarily that our one letter would do anything, but I think they've already extended it once. I think we can ask, you know, them to consider another extension of it. And I think
don't ask, the answer is no. So I'm in favor of asking.
Yeah, I think we can. No issues in asking, but I wouldn't guarantee or think that they would extend it again. I think that they're concerned about the receipting of all the bills and everything.
But if you get it out there sooner rather than later, then we have an opportunity to contact and talk to some of our connections there to keep trying to move it forward. So I like it. I hope we do it sooner rather than later.
Yep, I'm fine with doing it.
Want to put that on the agenda to have the chair sign?
Sure, I'm fine with that.
Me too.
Sure.
For tomorrow?
For tomorrow?
Please.
Okay.
I wouldn't make any phone calls without it already being in place. So if it's in place, I can at least start to try to reach out.
I'll circulate a draft of a letter this afternoon.
Thank you.
Then we can also share it with WASAC. Maybe we can get other counties on.
I think that would be, you know, somebody has to be the first domino, you know, and I think we can. And I think some of our subrecipient partners would be interested in doing that as well. And so, you know, just like Commissioner Netherland said, if you don't ask, the answer is no. So might as well ask.
And they're finding out that Mason County is not afraid to voice their opinion. So let's do it.
Will do.
All right. Any further discussion? No. All right. Let's move on to our Economic Development Council.
Hello.
Hi, guys.
Hello to both of you.
How are you guys? Morning.
Incredible.
Sorry, Cooper decided to start barking because I said hello. Well, I'm happy to start and kind of give an overview if you guys want. I sent out a framework. I met and spoke with each of the commissioners. You guys expressed interest in doing a second round of Mason County small business grants. So I pulled together a framework on what we could potentially have this project look like. We are running out of time, so it's going to be a very fast process and very concise. So I tried to make it as easy to understand as possible. Depending on how much you guys want to put into the second round, we can keep the requirements like we did with the last one, or match them up to our Working Washington grant. But I put in a few different options. We can scale it so that there are different amounts for different sizes of business, if that's something that you guys are interested in. I did change the open and operating to the March 15th. So we get some of those businesses that are impacted, that were startups after most of the year dates that grants have been put into place. Timeline wise, we're looking at, what we've noticed is the shortest time our application process could be open is 20 days. I've got it set in the document at 3 weeks. That gives us kind of a play of about 3 or 4 days. It is going to be very tight to get that funding out before the end of November. So just kind of wanted to really sit down and talk with you guys about, and get all of you guys together to talk about grant amounts, if this is something that you're interested in moving forward with, what kind of size of business. I know that I've talked with commissioners that want to put a focus on a restaurant, retail, some of those businesses that were more heavily impacted. That wraps more around in how we score the applications. I don't want to limit the businesses that can put in an application, but we can definitely prioritize those that have been shut down, the retail, the restaurant businesses, any hospitality businesses. We can weigh the scoring of those applications toward supporting those businesses over, say, a manufacturer that never had to shut down, that has been showing some impact but didn't have to close its doors. So kind of that's it in a nutshell. Wanted to get your thoughts on this. Hopefully I've addressed most of the concerns or questions that you guys had when we spoke individually. I highlighted a few things that if we do move forward with this, we definitely need to get a clear direction forward for it.
Right, and the turnaround needs to be very quick, right?
So if you guys are comfortable with it as it stands with the clarification that we put in, you would approve it at your meeting tomorrow. We would open the grant process on the 22nd of October. If we leave it open all 3 weeks, we would close it around November 13th. If we do a 20-day open, that closes it around November 10th or 11th. So it gives us a few days to play with. That doesn't give us much time before the wonderful Thanksgiving holiday sets in, which we will probably still be working through, but to have the different panels per district meet, review those applications, the awards from those panels, working with the EDC. We will be working right up until I have November 30th as our grant announcement to those awardees. So you're looking at a week and a half to verify the businesses, review the businesses, score the businesses, and notify and award those businesses.
Jennifer, the only issue I have is I'm hoping that the other commissioners will consider allowing people to reapply again for things, because we will have an opportunity to know if we're saving a business or not. Things didn't stop for everybody at a certain date. And so although they did apply and they were able to keep surviving a little longer with what they were given before, I'd hate to preclude us from being able to look at whether it's absolutely necessary to help them again now. So I guess my only request to the other commissioners is that we do not say no, that we allow people that have received money in the past to still apply, and we just consider that in our decision making.
Okay, that was one of the highlighted one. We can definitely provide an area in the application that has them specify if they've received additional funding from other CARES sources. And that could be part of the scoring matrix as well.
Yeah, I don't mind it being in there. I just don't want them to be precluded because they didn't. But again, that's just one commissioner. I haven't heard the other ones.
Oh, no, I think it's a good idea. If they have received funding, I think that there's something from Commerce that says that, you know, we're limited as to how much we can help them. But I would absolutely love to help.
Commerce dictated it in their last one that they wanted to help businesses that hadn't received it. It's not a CARES grant funding requirement.
Gotcha.
So we're okay with that if the other commissioners decide there's no problem? Jennifer, that was for you. So if the other commissioners decide there is no issue with the restrictions?
If the commissioners agree to it, we can just put it on there as something that the review panels would take a look at and consider as they're giving grants. So it wouldn't be something that would preclude them from even being able to apply.
Is there any I don't know, is there any downside to doing it that way? I mean, what's your kind of professional take on it?
We get, as we've gone through these different grant processes, probably about half of the applications in our last Working Washington grant were already people or businesses that have already received funding. So there's definitely still a need. I don't, as long as we're given enough time to be able to market it to businesses that haven't heard about it, I have no problem awarding it to people that have already had that award.
How would you weight that in a deliberation if they had already received? How would, I mean,
prioritizing the businesses that don't or haven't received it already? It just becomes a matter of making the scoring set somebody who hasn't received a grant as a higher score. So you would receive more points for not having received a grant as opposed to having received one. We can also weight it so that that entire category is maybe a percentage more important that way. It's easier to do it by number assignment. So if you do a scale of 1 to 10, your business that has received funding or has received funding, but it's not the $10,000 amount, you would, score as a 10, as opposed to somebody who's received 2,000, which isn't a lot, might be a 5, and somebody who's received 10 would be a 1. So they end up coming up, they're still scored, it's still a merit value system, but it's not as much as somebody who hasn't yet received funding.
And that gives the opportunity, something as dire, somebody as dire, that we could give some weight there.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. I think that, I don't think you're going to have a lack of applicants, but if you did, not have a full applicant pool, I'd hate to see it artificially truncated because of that. So
Okay. In all of our outreach, we've definitely encouraged all businesses to apply, whether they've received a grant previously or not. And we don't know what funding they've got. Some are the small business loans that need to be repaid, and it just gives us a better look at, what their needs are. So we're trying to be as thorough as possible when we're visiting with these guys.
Yeah.
Right, so the loans versus the grants.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And loans haven't precluded anybody from receiving a grant. Mm-hmm. It just helps us understand a better financial position of where they are. somebody who's received a PPP grant and is going through that forgivable loan process might feel a little bit more steady and might not need as much money because they've been receiving that, but it doesn't preclude them from any CARES grant funding. Only other CARES grant funding has. So, all right, so I will change the wording on previous grant winners. How does the timeline look for you guys?
As you said, I think sooner rather than later. This is a big jump for us, but we have to make a decision on how much. But I think, the time is of the essence here. We have to get it done as soon as we can.
So I'll throw this out, and hope to have a little conversation on it, I guess. But assuming we're all in agreement that there's going to be some funding for this, why not release advertisement today, and then we just, whatever we land on for the money between now and when we vote on it, then you make the program work there. I mean, you know what your limits are going to be, you know what your criteria are going to be. Why not just get it out, today or tomorrow even, and then we just award based on the level of funding that we apply to it?
We can definitely start marketing it as soon as we get a yes from you guys. We didn't want to open the application process until we have the yes from you guys and the at least the contract set with the county.
Yeah, Commissioner, one of the ways I think it's smart where you're stepping in this. One of the ways we could do it is get this thing passed on the structure, and with an open-ended comment in there that the total funding amount will be determined at a future date. But we're just opening it up so we don't put them in a bad position.
Because I mean, you could close your acceptance, midweek, that first week of November, essentially, or by the end of that first week of November, and get to reviewing, quite a few days earlier than what you have anticipated. So.
Is that doable?
Yeah, we can open it as long as we've got, and we don't need this is the amount the total amount that we're getting from the county, but we do need to have you guys, if you're wanting to do a range, if you want to set that parameter at the 10,000 that we've done before, or if you want to do bigger amounts or open up the number of employees, if you want to pull in some of your
I like what you put together.
So, okay. So if we keep it at the 15,000 for less than 20 employees and the 30,000 for more than 21 employees, and we just have them specify employee size and the grant size that they would like, it doesn't mean that they'll get awarded that, but we can put the application together like that, if that works for you guys.
I like that.
Okay.
I think.
All right. And so then we can just bring you back. Here's our, bring it. I guess that's where we would run into the problem is when we get into reviewing those applications, is it come back to you guys with here's the number of applications that we've received per district, pull together the review panels for that, and approval comes from those review panels. Coming back to you for final approval just adds more time.
No, but I definitely think it still needs to come back to the commission as a whole. I like the idea of everything you just said and how to put it together, but I think the commission has to have a say on the final list, I would think, just to be safe.
So you're saying that
I disagree on that. I don't know that I mean, we're setting the criteria. You're going to have it reviewed. I'm not as concerned about weighing in again at the end.
Isn't that how we did it last time?
So the way that I had set it up in the framework that I sent, it was timeline specific. Have it go through. So for the review side of it, we get the applications in. I've put together a 5-person panel. One of those positions will be the commission spot as it sits in each district. So essentially we'll have 3 lists. So the panel will meet with commission District 1, the panel will meet with Commission District 2, and you'll review the applications that are within each district. My thought is, out of that review panel is that district's final list, and that we would fund the final list of those districts. That was purely because of the timeline that we're on. To then compile that list and bring it back to the county commissioner for a final approval just adds additional time. So that's a discussion that the commissioners would need to have, and how you want to move forward with that.
I'm comfortable with not having it come back. I think we've reviewed it once, each district, and I feel like that's good enough for me.
Yeah, and I mean, I guess, from my perspective, I'm not even particularly real high on necessarily reviewing it for my district. I prefer not weighting it or bringing my own bias into those conversations. So so I'm not real high one way or another on having review. I mean, I feel like that's what we are contracting with you all to do, to apply your business expertise in the community and your knowledge of our local economy, and then weight that against the review process. So I'll participate. I'm not saying that I won't participate, but I don't necessarily think that my voice needs to be one that gets heard in the distribution process. I think that's best left to the professionals in the review board.
If Commissioner Trask is okay with it going forward, I'll be okay with it coming from the committee. But somehow, though, I do think the community needs to know what the final picture looks like. So at least for advise and consent to get it included in our agenda in the future, showing how the money was broke down.
Definitely. And that can happen as you're going through your reporting, even back to the state for your commerce dollars. You'll still be receiving at the county level from us a copy of all of those that have been approved. You'll still be getting the business agreement that we get signed with them in approval for those monies. They are giving us their expenses. So you'll still receive all of the same documentation that you received last time.
The only other thing I would ask commissioners is that we consider the amount of work that the EDC is doing is incredible. We're talking hundreds of hours extra that they've been putting in. That was the numbers that was given at a meeting I just attended specifically on this. And I know that I wish we could have had this outreach through our communities before, but it takes emergencies. It takes bad times sometimes to make great things happen. And we've had some great things happen. So I just hope when we consider our dollar amount that what we're putting forward in the long run, that we also include, and I'm usually the guy that I fought the EDC years ago trying to keep extra money from going there when it wasn't needed, but it's been needed. I just hope we consider that as we move forward to make sure we throw some more into their pocket, into the EDC's bank account to help them to accomplish what they're doing. That's just an added thing I'm throwing in there.
Yeah, and I completely agree. We've talked about this a couple of times in the past, and my issue hasn't been that I don't want to find ways to support their work. I want them to bring forward what they want and need in order to continue doing the work. And so until they do that, and I've had this conversation with both Jennifer and Karin as well. So I hope I'm not, speaking out of turn here, but I think as long as they're able to bring forward exactly what it is that they want and what they're going to do with it, I think that makes the conversation much more realistic and easy to have.
Yep, I can't argue with that, Commissioner. So maybe we can ask them to put that together and get it to us soon.
Mm-hmm. Well, we'll do two separate ones, some administration for the grant, and then I'm already working on our .09 fund application as well. So I have heard those comments and I appreciate the support, and we're definitely going to get you hopefully what it is that you're looking for.
Yeah, please keep those separate though.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And it's pretty obvious the work that you guys are doing too, and I appreciate it so much, and so do our business owners. So yep. Thank you guys so much for the hours, multiple hours, and I'm not sure about the blood, but I'm sure the sweat and the tears that you guys have put in.
I know for sure there's been tears.
Yes. Yeah. Well, we appreciate your support very much.
You can't go through this global pandemic and not see the toll it takes on the people around us. And that's where the biggest struggle is. So hopefully if you guys are willing, when we get to the award side of it, we would love to have you help us award those checks and be able to talk with those businesses about the different impacts and the support. I mean, we even had one of them who was new to the community say, yes, I knew we chose the right county because they had seen the support that they had gotten over. I don't even think they'd been in business maybe a year and a half, and just being able to have that excitement at being in the right place because they see everybody supporting each other.
Mm-hmm. It's been pretty amazing.
Yeah.
So then just the last little question, Working Washington opened up funding for nonprofits. Just want to see if that's something that you're interested in housing within this grant, or if you want to keep it small business specifically.
So what percentage of the workforce in the county do you think are in the nonprofit sector?
I don't have that number, but it's probably fairly small.
Yeah. And the only reason I ask that is because I know through other means we have been, and I'm looking purely maybe at the housing, side of things, a lot of nonprofits on the housing side. We've injected a lot of CARES Act funding through commerce into those. And so that's why I'm just kind of curious as to what the makeup of our local economy is in the nonprofit sector. If there's a way to do it, I think it would be great. But, we kind of want to make sure that we're not just, overwhelming one sector of the economy with some of this.
Right. The concern that Commerce came up with, which is why they added it into their Working Washington, is we've got quite a few 501c6s. Those are not eligible for grant funds. 501c3s have been the major benefiter of any CARES Act dollars, where nonprofits have been. But I can definitely come back and at least send you some numbers on the percentage of jobs that we have that are within those two different sections.
What would be an example of a 501c6? Don't name a necessarily an entity, but what kind of work are they doing that's different than a 501c3?
The main difference between the two of those is a 501c3 provides charitable tax documentation. 501c6s don't. So you see a lot more associations. I'll tell you honestly, the EDC is a 501c6. So we don't bridge that gap into charitable tax benefits. Mm-hmm. That's our biggest one. But we do have and are working through different ways of being able to build part of the organization into a 501c3. So you're looking mostly at different associations, different designations. I can send you some of the wording on the differentiating between the two.
Yeah, I appreciate that clarification there.
Okay. We wouldn't be, just to be clear, we wouldn't be applying for, our name will not be going into the county grant.
The workforce in those may not be many, like we're just two people, but I think the work that is being done by these small nonprofits, I think it's great work. It's strong work in our community. Has shown over and over that our nonprofits do amazing work.
They tend
in the support of our businesses and our community.
There were some that were shut down, that actually shut down during the height of it.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. A good example is they tend to be a lot of service supports. So you look at the hub in Belfair supports quite a few elderly entities, not to mention community members, meals, things like that aren't necessarily on the economic side of it, but they definitely support the community. So it kind of just, it's a different mind switch, but they definitely do quite a bit. So just something for you guys to think about. We can always open it up and have them apply and see what we get and bring them specifically back to you for approval. If that's an easier way of doing it, since I'm not sure we'll even have additional applications beyond the Working Washington 2 one. So we might not get any. It might be a moot point. So.
Okay. Sounds good.
Okay. All right. So then I will, if we get a yes from you guys, then we'll go ahead and get it opened probably this afternoon or tomorrow morning at the latest. And we're fine doing that as long as I get a yes or a thumbs up from you guys.
You got a yes from me. I mean, so I'm on board.
2 thumbs up for me.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you guys.
Thank you very much.
Really appreciate your support.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you guys for everything that you're doing, your countless hours.
Teamwork makes the dream work.
All right. Thank you guys.
Thank you.
Thank
you. Are you good for just moving straight down?
Sure.
Yeah. All right.
All right. We'll see you.
Thank you guys. All right. Let's move on to Mason Transit. Danette, are you there?
I am. Good morning.
Good morning, Danette.
So thank you for having me. The transit wants to put in a grant application for vehicles through the consolidated grant application for the next biennium. So we're requesting a letter of support from the county, 6 cutaways. In our original briefing, we did have a planning grant that we were going to also ask support for. However, with the transit's current situation, we think we can just absorb the cost without having to apply for a grant. The better approach. So I think in the original briefing, it does talk about a planning grant for Allen and Hoodsport to do a feasibility study, but we're removing that from our application. So we'll just be asking for vehicles.
When do you need it by?
And we need the letter, preferably by next Monday is when we'll plan to submit the grant.
I'm okay with putting it on the agenda.
Same. I think it is. I think this was just to get it briefed to us.
Right.
So
Yes. Good.
I'm good with it, Danette.
Great.
Very good.
Perfect. All right. Well, thank you. Any more questions on what the letter of support is?
No, not for me.
Okay. All right.
Thanks, Danette.
Thank you very much.
All right. Let's move on to Public Works.
Morning, Commissioners. Happy Monday.
Hi.
Hi. We've got today on our briefing agenda our standard annual activities for setting our bridge limits and emergency closure procedures, and so soliciting for some materials and services for the following year. And then Richard is here to speak with you on the scale replacement. We had briefed on that previously and are complete with some further research and ready to act on that. And then we also are here to update on some of the recent hires and the need to, and an appointment of a lead, and the need to advertise for one of our road maintenance supervisor positions. So that's it. And I'm really happy that we added an extra briefing item because otherwise next week would have been really action-packed. So thank you, commissioners, for adding another briefing this week. So with that, I'll kick it over to Mike.
Good morning, all.
Morning.
The first item up is bridge limit resolution. We have a resolution here to update some load restrictions on a couple bridges, Stretch Island Bridge and Ross Mare Bridge. Additionally, it's recognizing the 5 other bridges that are 1-lane bridges only. And so we recommend the board to approve resolution to establish the load and lane limits for traffic control on these 7 structures.
Good with me.
I'm good.
I like it when they're quiet. All right, we'll move on to this really exciting stuff. County load and speed restrictions and emergency closure orders for county roads. The RCW gives the county authority and ability to place road restrictions on roads due to weather. We also would like to have the resolution give the county engineer and or his designee the authority to close the county road in the absence of the board, or in cases of emergency conditions may, we may have to close it before we have a board meeting. So this is pretty standard in most counties. We recommend the board approve the resolution authorizing the county road load, speed restriction, and emergency closure order. Is there anything missing? Nope. Okay.
Yeah, I'm also good with that.
Okay.
I'm kind of surprised that we didn't have it already, honestly.
Yeah. Hopefully we won't have to use it too often.
Yeah, that's my hope too.
The next item is the road maintenance surfacing material, the county vendors roster. What we do is we put out, we go to the Small Works roster and we put out requests for pricing. We try to get, and the whole idea is to try to get the supplier to fix their prices per ton for rock and sand and for the whole year. And we don't guarantee any minimum purchase or whatnot, but this is just for when we need some rock here and need some material there. So it's not a contract situation. So we would recommend the board authorizing Public Works to use the county vendors roster to solicit and establish the 2021 surfacing materials unit price vendors list and purchase quantities as needed. I believe that's about it.
I'm good.
Any questions?
Nope.
No questions.
Right. I've not got much reaction today. Okay, this is a good one. Vehicle and equipment towing and tire repair service. Who couldn't get excited about that? County vendors roster. So Public Works through ER&R would like to open our annual solicitation of prospective vendors to order to establish a tire repair vendors roster and a towing service vendors rosters for these services utilized as an as-need basis. So we are recommending the board to authorize Public Works to use the county vendors roster to solicit the vehicle and equipment towing and tire repair services for 2021.
I support it, but I'm just wondering what we did before this.
I thought we've always had this. This is just a.
That's kind of what I thought too, but we kind of, we just wanted to update it each year. We'll take a look at it again next year.
Sounds like a plan.
Okay.
Good.
And I'll pass you on to Richard.
All right. Your favorite, if that didn't get you, this will. Okay, our outbound scale, if you remember back in January, we had one of the load cells failed. Cost us about $7,700. It's a 26-year-old scale that had a life of 20 years. Our technician said you can expect the remaining 9 to fail you. shortly. That has a replacement or a repair cost of $60,000 to $80,000. We looked at replacing the original scale with a bolt-in-place steel deck scale. It was like $125,000. It has a lifespan of anywhere 15 to 18 years. And it would be about 2 days to, we'd have to be down to get that accomplished. The last option I have is replacing it with a concrete deck scale. And I'm sorry, I got to apologize. Our briefing that you probably received says it would require a 3-week closure. That's old news. It would actually require a 3-day closure. Comes with a 10-year warranty and be good for 20 to 25 years. We have no funds in this year's budget. We're actually requesting this to be 2021 for the installation. Deck, it wouldn't be ready to be installed until 2021 as well. And we've requested funds in that 2021 budget that we'll talk about later today, I'm sure. So what we're doing is we're recommending that you allow us to procure a concrete deck type scale and have it installed.
And so this is in the 2021 budget requests?
Yes.
So think that makes the most sense out of the 3 options that you provided. Would it be more appropriate for us to revisit that this afternoon when we have the fuller context of your budget proposal, or do you want to give some insight as to how this fits in to what the 21 proposal is now?
Well, we knew we were going to have to do something with this scale.
Right.
It's just a matter of when it's going to fail, and if it does fail, besides just estimating volumes, we would have no other way to track what's coming in or going out. So that was kind of the driver on it. Is like we've had initially thought of installing it in another place, a different location at the site, but we just don't have the resources available to make that happen. Mm-hmm. And we've got to get planning now.
Yeah, and I totally get that, but I guess my question was, since you kind of alluded to how it fits in your 21 budget proposal, I mean, are there things that are being moved around in the 21 budget? Are there things that, I mean, what is the?
No, it's a capital request.
This is just an addition to whatever else.
Yes. Yeah, this is a capital request in the 2021 budget.
Okay.
And we have adequate revenue.
Yeah, we have the revenue coming in.
Okay, well that's good context. That's helpful.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean, I'm supportive. I mean, I think there's no way around it. We'll just kind of see how everything fits this afternoon too when we have your briefing for budget.
Yep. So we'll talk more this afternoon.
All right.
Randy, any thoughts?
Oh, we'll finish it up this afternoon and figure out the dollars. But it looks, I don't know. We'll just keep moving forward. We'll finish it up. If we have the money there and it's coming in and we have the revenues, I'm not seeing any issue.
Yeah, thank you, commissioners. All right, and then our next discussion item, commissioners, we received resignation from Brannin Profit, and we are proposing to advertise internally for 1 week and proceed with that.
Good with me.
Good with me.
I'm good. Sad to see him go, but
yeah, we are as well. Brennan provided a lot. He's one of those folks that left the place better than he found it, I can say. He was instrumental in providing a lot of order to both our sign operations, bringing together kind of some modern application, if you will, to our inventories and inspections. Updated our road log asset management quite a bit by adding features that, quite frankly, many counties do not have included in their road logs. Was instrumental in putting together our culvert inventory and inspection program. So Brannin really did bring the county forward in many ways, and he will be missed. Wish him all the best in his new ventures.
Yeah, absolutely.
Also, speaking of that kind of a issue, we've appointed Kevin Giosa. He submitted a letter as for lead in solid waste while we don't have a program manager. So we was able to complete that.
Commissioners were requesting to be able to put that as an action item on tomorrow's agenda, if that works for you, to appoint Kevin as lead in the solid waste program.
Yeah, could be.
Yeah, I'm good. I think, does this have to go through HR?
And it has. We've been coordinating with them. Yes.
Okay. All right, I'm good.
One more discussion item. One of my solid waste attendant ones has accepted a position as a clerical one here at Public Works. So now I have an opening. Hopefully you'll let me fill for another solid waste attendant one.
Yeah.
I'm good with that. And I'm glad you stayed with Public Works.
The shuffle.
Yeah.
I was going to say, let me see if I understand this. You stole from yourself?
Kind of.
Kind of.
Yeah. I didn't have a say in what got stolen though. I just knew it was happening.
Yep. Great.
All right. I think that is it on the personnel front.
That's it.
Okay, was there something on there about culverts?
I don't believe so.
Added in there. We had briefed that earlier this month. I think it was just in the packet.
Oh, for the purchases of materials?
Yeah, it was dated October 5th.
Okay.
I think this is for tomorrow's meeting, this October 20th. It's the bid award. I'll add it on to October 20th since we're amending the agenda.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Diane.
Hey, Loretta, can you send me information on that lead person, Kevin?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yep, will do. Commissioners, that is all we have.
Commissioners, anything for Public Works?
Not at the moment.
Nope.
Okay. All right, we'll see you this afternoon.
All right, looking forward to it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. And so now we will go into a closed session for labor discussion. See you guys in the closed session.
Yeah, so we won't be taking any action. We don't.
Correct.